Welcome to the Growth and Influence podcast. My name is Andrew Schultz, and I am your host. Today, we're going to talk about how to run a webinar that books sales calls and or closes revenue. For those of you who have listened before, you know I've spoken about what I see as a big misfire in B2B SaaS marketing, and that's the failure to effectively market to the 97% of your market that isn't considering a purchase of your software category today. A lot of companies have these people on their email subscriber lists, or they have access to them on their social media channels, but they've never successfully converted them from attention to action. Today, I'm going to give you the framework that you can use to convert those people at a much higher rate and in much larger volumes, leading to decreased CAC, cost to acquire a customer, because you're converting people who are already on your lead list and you don't have to pay for their attention again. Increased efficiency will come from this and increased profits. So why should you listen to me? Just last year, I used this process with a client that was struggling for sales. And I have a very different approach than what everybody else in B2B SaaS is doing today or ever has done. It was 2023 last year. Salespeople were hurting, and this business's customers were salespeople. Using the methods I'll describe in this episode, we created over $120,000 in revenue. And to put that number in context, these were the most successful single marketing events this company has ever done up to that point. That number may not sound big in the context of your business, but the principles I'm going to teach you here are not deal size specific. They're not specific to a certain business size. They just work. And for this business, those numbers were very significant during that year and during the time that they were going through. If your ACV is larger, this will work for you too. You might think, we have a more complex sales process, and that may be true, but you're still suffering from the same problem on the front end. Your deal flow is too light because you're not converting enough passive attention into action. And what I'm going to talk about today will solve that problem for you. We'll give you tools to fix that problem. In today's episode, I'm going to tell you the story of what happened. Then I'm going to show you why these marketing efforts were different, both in substance and results from what you're running today. And finally, I'm going to break down the three main principles to show you how we achieve this result of converting people from passive attention to entering the sales pipeline and buying the product shortly thereafter. Sound good? Let's get started. Welcome to the Growth and Influence podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Schultz. I'm a B2B SaaS direct response marketer, and I'm also passionate about personal development and coaching. I started this podcast for a few reasons. Number one, I believe B2B SaaS marketing has suffered from absurd levels of inefficiency for years, leading to astronomical cost to acquire a customer. In yesterday's SaaS economy, people were okay with that. Today, it's a sure path to failure. This podcast is designed to help you understand how to market with more efficiency, earlier profit, and more tangible results that grow your company and put marketing back in the strategic seat it should have at the table. The second reason I started this podcast was out of a desire to help kids living in emotional, spiritual, mental, and physical poverty get a hand up from where they're at. While the next phase of this podcast will focus less on those personal development principles and more on the tactics and strategies of B2B SaaS marketing, I'm still very passionate about personal development and bringing its principles to these kids. You'll see that mission develop here as time goes on. Again, welcome. Let's jump into today's episode. I promised to start by telling you the story. I started working with this company in early 2023, and this just happened to be right when everything changed for this business. 2022 had been a banner year, the best year the company had seen up to that point in its short history of only, a handful of years. And in 2023, a couple of things changed that put the company in a bad place. First of all, this company's main source of traffic dried up. So this business succeeded by getting people to its website, to the pages where it was making its offers, converting people into customers with those offers on those pages and the tactics that they used there. And that LinkedIn traffic dropped by something like half, maybe more than that. The numbers fluctuated a little bit, but it was a dramatic change in the amount of attention that this company was getting. And it was, unfortunately, it only had that one source. And this happened because of a LinkedIn algorithm change, which completely changed the amount of exposure the business's content was getting and the number of reactions and the click-throughs and things like that. Second, this company's market completely changed. So there were two really bad things happening at the same time for this business. This business sells its product to salespeople, mostly salespeople who work for tech companies with the promise of helping them produce better results so they can achieve more success, make more money, live a better life, etc. Now, a quick note on this. You might be tempted to think this story isn't relevant for you because that's a B2C sale and you do B2B. And that would be a mistake for two reasons. Number one, yes, this was technically a B2B sale because these were individuals that the business was selling to, but it's not a typical B2B sale. This company delivers business results to its customers, but those customers happen to be individual contributors in the business. But this company is not selling entertainment, pleasure, fun, or a consumer product. It's selling business results in a professional setting for a professional. This is one reason why this is actually a really interesting case study, because most of these people bought this product with their own money, not a company budget. So how much harder do you think it is to make that sale, especially in the scenario that I'm about to describe? The outcome we were shooting for with this marketing effort was a call, which is what most B2B SaaS is shooting for as well. So again, this is another reason why if you're thinking this isn't relevant, you would be wrong. The whole goal was to convert these people from paying attention to online content and from reading the web pages and reading the newsletter, converting them into a sales call. And you might have a longer sales process afterwards than this company did, which is fine, but you have the same goal. And that doesn't change the fact that you need more of those calls with qualified and excited prospects, and you have a very low conversion rate from your lead list to that call today. That was the same problem this business had, and this is how we solved it. So as I was saying, this company's market, which is salespeople, completely changed in 2023. Tech sellers were getting fired and laid off in droves, and those who still had jobs were playing the game on hard mode. The vast majority were not hitting their quota, they were short on personal funds, and they were in a place where they were pretty afraid, and a lot of them were just hiding and hoping this would blow over and that they wouldn't get fired in the meantime. This was the environment we were in when we put this marketing into place and produced the results I mentioned above. $120,000 in revenue, which was a big deal to this company at this time, and this revenue was almost all profit. There was no incremental cost to any of it, other than the fee the company paid me, which was insignificant compared to this result. The first thing we did was an email campaign. We sent 7 emails over the course of 7 or 8 days. I can't remember exactly, but it was 7 emails. We might have had a day where there was a break. And we booked calls from that campaign that we closed, and we booked calls from that campaign that ended up closing over $60,000 in revenue in 3 weeks. This was the simpler of the 2 marketing plays we ran. We just, in this case, just wrote the emails, sent them to the existing list of email subscribers, and also used the email copy as LinkedIn posts. So we repurposed the emails that I wrote as LinkedIn posts. And the call to action was to book a call, and most of these calls are 1-call closes. So remember, it doesn't matter if your sales process is different from here. You probably don't have a 1-call close in most cases in B2B SaaS, but we're focused on getting the prospect from passively paying attention to your content to getting on that call with the serious intent to move forward in the sales process, not just to jump on the call out of curiosity or to kick the tires or whatever. And to qualify these people to make sure that when they jump on that call, they're the kind of people we want to talk to. That's what matters here, and that's what this process will do. So this company was really excited about the success of this campaign. Again, closing $60,000 in revenue in 3 weeks just by sending 7 emails and getting those people into calls. They were emboldened by the success to run something even bigger. So we put together a webinar designed to get the audience to book calls. And this webinar ran 3 times. And to get people to the webinar, we ran another email campaign. But because we knew this would take multiple tries to really nail it, we only sent the campaign to 1,000 subscribers the first and the second time. So the first time we got a 7% email to registration rate. 7% of the people we emailed registered for that webinar. That's a pretty remarkable number. Of course, there's also a drop off at the show up rate. So we had 50% almost. I think the first one was 44% of those who registered actually showed up for the webinar, which is far better than we had expected, as typical webinar show-up rates are somewhere between 25 and 30%. The second time we ran it, it was similar, got about a 70% registration rate and an actual 50% 98% registration or show up rate that time. And the third time we increased the volume and saw those rates go down a little bit. We also had an email campaign going to those who registered or attended, but who didn't book a call. We could have split these out, but the company decided not to have that level of complexity at this time. The first time we did the webinar, we didn't get anyone to book a call and we didn't sell anything. We reviewed the recording, we tweaked the message a little bit, and we improved the delivery of the webinar script. And on the second try, we did book some calls and we closed over $7,000 in revenue. This company actually didn't have a great reporting system in place. And so their numbers have changed over time. They have a couple of sets of numbers for the results from this, but the second webinar booked anywhere between $7,000 and $15,000 in revenue. And again, we made a few minor adjustments after this second webinar. We ran the third time and we closed over $50,000. Again, there's some ambiguity. It might be closer to $60,000. The exciting thing about these marketing efforts is that they're evergreen. So if the subscriber list or the size or sign-up rate is adequate, I'll say that more clearly. If the subscriber list size or the rate at which you're getting new subscribers to that list is adequate, you can run these campaigns over and over and over again, and they will produce the similar results every time you run them. That's the whole point of these types of campaigns, is that they can be evergreen and producing those same results into your business every time you run them. Now, nothing works forever, but if it works once, it'll work 2, 3, 4. It'll probably work for a year, 2 years, and then you're going to have to probably make some tweaks. But that's the most exciting thing about this type of campaign. In the case of this business, it didn't have that kind of lead flow, because as we talked about, the traffic that was coming to this business had been cut in half or even more. And it was really, this was really an effort now in taking the audience that this business already had, since its new audience was being limited by outside forces, and moving them into the next phase, converting more of them to customers. So that's the story. Next, let's talk about why these marketing efforts were different than what most B2B SaaS companies are doing today, and how they were different and how you can do that too. Most B2B SaaS webinars, we'll start with webinars today, are not designed to get people to take action. Even if that's the goal, there's a model that all the B2B SaaS companies follow because you've seen it before, you think that's how you do it, and it's what you do. It's not designed to get people to take action. There's a lot of information given. There's no emotional resonance usually, and it's not designed to have a strong call to action at the end and to convert people into that next step. It may have a very passive call to action. A lot of times there's no call to action at all. And so those webinars are great at if it's a topic that you can get people to come and listen to, and the leaders from your company and the leader from your partner company or the industry luminary comes and they talk about, here are the trends, here's what you need to look out for. And again, information rich, those are great. People are going to go away with a lot of notes. They're probably not going to do anything about it, human nature being what it is, but they're going to leave and they'll remember you if that thing becomes really important at some point in the future. And when some of those people's lives, it will become important, and they'll remember you and maybe they'll come back to you. Okay, but there's a lot of maybes there. Maybe it'll become important and maybe they'll come back to you. And so those are the results that you're going to get from that kind of webinar. These webinars that we ran in this story that I told you, we know exactly what the ICP needs. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. We offer it in a compelling way with emotional resonance. So we capture the emotions of the people who are here on this webinar, and we know what they need. We know why they're struggling and what they're suffering from. And we talk about those things in a compelling way. And then we make a very compelling offer for them to get our help solving those problems. Okay? And that every B2B SaaS product can do that. It can be marketed in that way. If it doesn't solve anybody's problems, then there's other work that needs to be done. But if it's a good B2B SaaS product that can solve problems, then you can market it in this way. The method of presenting like this comes from actually, it's a permutation of what people used to do who would go around selling their services and their products from stage. There were, this is a little bit of a cottage industry, but they made a lot of money, and they had learned over time and through years and years of trial and error how to make a presentation that moved a lot of people to take action at the end. And those principles are extremely relevant in any presentation, B2B or B2C, that you want to give that invites people to take action. And so there's that difference. The emails are the same thing. In the emails, what happens in B2B SaaS a lot of times is that people will get onto one of these email lists, and there are a multitude of ways that they can get onto that email list. And for many, if not most of those ways, the emails they're going to be getting are completely out of alignment with like the interest that they showed in the thing that they downloaded, or, however they got onto that list. So I might download a Gartner Magic Quadrant and get emails about, this product's brand new feature set that's just coming out and how proud they are about it. And that would be appropriate. On the other hand, I might download a PDF about just some topic that their customers are interested in, and I'll get those same emails about how awesome their product is, and there's a complete disconnect. The emails that we send follow the same principles as the webinar. We know who our customer is. We know what they're suffering from today. We know exactly what they want and why they're not getting it. And we talk about those things in the emails. And that's true of the emails that booked people into a call and then sold them. And it's true of those emails that we use to get people onto the webinar, which would then book people into a call and sell them. So it's just a different approach, and it's all based on a psychological understanding of our ICP and talking to them. It's just not something that B2B SaaS does very much today. The other thing that's different is that in both the emails and the webinars, we were handling objections on a one-to-many basis. And I never see B2B SaaS marketing do this or do it well. SaaS marketers just don't handle objections very often. And I think that's probably because they think, well, when, it's not about objections. The question of whether or not they take the action we ask them to take isn't about objections. It's about readiness. And when they're ready, I think this inbound marketing trend that's, happened over, the last decade or so, people have thought, well, it's all about awareness and they'll know our brand. And when they're ready, they'll come to us. But the reality is, if somebody isn't converting, it's because they have an objection. Even if that objection is, I don't know who you are. I don't think I need this. This isn't the right time. Doesn't seem like a good fit. Those are objections, and you can handle them and you'll convert more. The other reason B2B SaaS marketers might not handle objections is because they think that that's the salesperson's job, and their job is just to get them into the funnel or get them out of the funnel and into the sales pipeline, and then the salesperson will handle the objections. But the reality is, if they're not converting into that call, it's because they have an objection. And you handle those objections on a one-to-many basis by anticipating the objections and then telling stories about someone who used to believe what they believe now, in their state of disbelief about what you're telling them. And in this story, that person believed that, and then they learned the truth. And if you could tell that story in the right way, with the right emotions, it will break down the resistance that they feel to what you're saying, and you will convert them into the next step at a much higher rate. And there are generally 3 areas, because in a one-to-one conversation, you can ask somebody, well, what about this doesn't make sense? What are all the ways you can see this not going the way that you'd like it to go? Can you see any obstacles that might be in the way to us getting this result together? But in marketing, you're on a webinar with 30 people, 50 people, 100 people, 500 people. You don't have that opportunity. And if you're writing emails to an email list, you don't have that opportunity. So you need to anticipate the objections, and then you tell the stories. And there are 3 typical buckets that these objections will fall into, 3 typical categories of objection. And the first objection is about the vehicle. Now, if you're doing this in the most basic way, I would encourage you to to actually study offers and how they're different than just products. But if you're doing this in the most basic way, your vehicle is your product. If you're a more advanced marketer and you're making an offer to this person, your vehicle is your offer. And the offer isn't just pricing for the product. Again, it's out of scope for this, but I'll talk about that on another podcast. And I think I've already talked about it in the past as well. But your offer or your product, that's the vehicle. And they're going to have false beliefs about that vehicle. So they're going to feel like that's not going to work. And you handle those objections first. And then the second objection, once they feel like, okay, that vehicle, it sounds like it works. It's worked for other people who have the same problems that I have. That might work. But then other objections are going to come up. And the second objection is, but it won't work for me. It might have worked for that other person, but it won't work for me. And we call these internal false beliefs. And an excellent book that goes through all of this is called Expert Secrets by a man named Russell Brunson. And that's where I've learned all of these things myself and where I learned to get these results that I'm talking about. So, Russell talks about internal false beliefs. These are now things that are internal to them. It won't work for me because I'm not experienced enough. I don't know anything about that. I don't have the skills necessary. Nothing ever works for me if somebody's really pessimistic. Like, those are the false beliefs that you handle next. Those are the objections you handle next. I'm going to use objections and false beliefs as synonyms here. And then the third category of objections you handle are external false beliefs. So yeah, it seems like that might work. And I think that I could do that except for, and then these other false beliefs start to come up. The economy's not right. My boss wouldn't let me do that. There's no way the board would approve that. Our legal policies don't allow for that. These are all external false beliefs, things outside of their control that would prevent them from getting the result. And you handle those objections next. So that's one of the main things that makes these different is they handle these objections on a one-to-many basis. Now, the next principle is, and the last thing that I'm going to teach you, so we've talked about why these were different, and one of the main things that we need to do to make them different is handling objections one-to-many. And then next, finally, there are 3 principles at the end here. Know your identity, know your customer, and have a new opportunity. And if you're going to be effective getting these kinds of results in converting more people from attention to action, you need to know who you are so you can build a relationship with the customer. Imagine like trying to build a relationship with your significant other if you didn't know who you were in the first place. It wouldn't work very well. You wouldn't have a very powerful relationship, and you wouldn't be a very strong member of that relationship if you did get into it. And so you wouldn't have any influence. You wouldn't be much of a benefit to that person's life. You need to know who you are. Why should they listen to you? Why should they follow your counsel? Can you be trusted? What about you is like them that makes you an insider to them instead of an outsider? As you start to build that identity, you will resonate with these people much more. And you can do this as a brand. You could do this as an influencer. You can do this with a brand that has a person and their personality out front, and it's very effective. And so you need to know your identity if you're going to write this kind of marketing that connects with people on this level and moves them to take action. Second, you must know the place you want your customer, must know the place your customer wants to go. So this isn't about what you want people to do with your product. It's not about you getting people to use your product in a certain way. It's about what your customer wants. And can you give it to them? Can you deliver that result? And if you can, then you should paint that picture in the most vibrant, colorful manner that you can possibly paint it for them. They need to feel where you can take them. And again, they're in this place of pain right now caused by a problem that they don't know how to solve. And if you can teach them how to relieve that pain by solving that problem, and you have the knowledge and the skills and the experience to solve that problem, and by the way, our product will help you do it easier, faster, better, cheaper, with more certainty of the result you're looking for, or with more fun, any number of those things, then you offer that product, and you've now painted a picture in their minds of what their life could be like. You're future pacing with them, and they're feeling it, and they're much more likely to convert. If you can give that future to them, if that's in your power to deliver that with working with them, because you will never be the one, you'll never just solve the problem. Products don't solve problems, people solve problems, but products can help them do it easier, faster, better, cheaper, with more certainty, or with more fun. And so if you can partner with them to solve that problem, then you should offer it to them in the package of a new opportunity rather than an improvement offer. And again, this is from that book, Expert Secrets, and it's a brilliant principle. When you're marketing an offer to somebody, and again, an offer is superior to a product, but when you're marketing as a product or an offer to somebody, you can tell them that this is 10% better or 20% better than what they used to do, or that it will help them do 20% more of it, or reduce their time to doing it by 20%, or increase their ROI by 40%, or whatever. But those are all improvement offers. It's more of what they already have, and it's not exciting emotionally. Nor does it put you in a different category than all the other people out there who are doing the same thing as you. So if you can sell things that are improvement offers, and people buy them all the time, but they're more of a commodity, they're less differentiated from their competitors, and you don't have the power to charge as much as you'd like to charge if you're selling an improvement offer. If you're selling a new opportunity, your messaging is, and again, it's not a different product or a different offer, it's just how you talk about it. A new opportunity is something that they have never tried before, and therefore they've never gotten the result that you're offering. And so, like, weight loss is a perfect example. An improvement offer for weight loss is, and again, I know that's not B2B SaaS, but it's just an easy example for everybody to understand. In weight loss, an improvement offer is, if you want to lose weight, you need to exercise more and eat less. And I can teach you how to exercise more and eat less, and therefore you'll lose weight. And that's true. But people have already tried that and failed, and they failed for a myriad of reasons. Most of them is just that they don't have the willpower and the discipline to exercise more and eat less. And maybe they don't know how to exercise in the right way, or they don't know how to eat less, but they've failed, and they're not going to get excited about that offer. But if you tell them that you have a special method of these certain workouts in this sequence with this diet, and it works every time somebody does it, and you call it this, and it's a name that sounds like something exciting and something that's sure to work, and then you can get those people into that opportunity at a much higher rate, because they can say to themselves, it's not about how I've tried and failed before and I'm just going to try again. It's about this new thing that I didn't have. And the only difference is you're packaging it differently. And if you package it differently and they're excited coming into this offer, they're going to get results. Whereas if it was just another thing that they've already tried, they're going to give it another try again, then that would be, they'd be much less likely to actually follow through and get results. So those are the reasons why this kind of marketing works so successfully. It is completely missing in the world of SaaS. And today, when companies are under the gun to produce more on smaller budgets, to produce profitable growth, to be more efficient in their marketing, and to be able to be accountable for the money they spend in marketing and the results that they produce so that the business is operating at a profit, then this kind of marketing is exactly what B2B SaaS needs to move to. I'm 100% convinced of that. It needs to be part of the marketing programs. Even if it's not the whole thing, it needs to be a core part where you know that you're going to produce these results time after time after time. So I hope this has been helpful. If it has, I would love to hear from you. Send a voice note. You can do that if you're listening on Spotify. You can actually record a voice note and send it to me. And if you have questions or comments, or you want to make a point, I'd be happy to share that on future episodes. If you don't want that, just tell me and I won't put your voice on future episodes. But may talk about the topic that you bring up. That would be awesome. I have yet to get the first voice note. I don't know how often that happens with other podcasts, but I'm still looking for the first one. It could be you. So if so, and you have something to say, then send a voice note, and I would be so excited. Please rate this podcast 5 stars. Share it with your friends if you found value in it. That's the whole point. I'm here to serve you, and I hope this has been valuable for you today. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.